Reading The Unknown Reality by Jane Roberts, a Seth book, Volume 2. Session 732. The psychic families or families of consciousness are going to be named toward the end of this session, but again, he's leading up to this information, so everything is important. Okay, so Seth states, now, I have spoken about counterparts in Rupert's class. Many of the students became deadly serious as they tried to understand the concept. Some wanted me to identify their counterparts for them. One student, a contractor, said little. Instead, during the last week, he let his own creative imagination go wherever it might, while he held the general idea in his mind. He played with the concept then. In a way, his experiences were like those of a child, open, curious, filled with enthusiasm. As a result, he himself discovered a few of his counterparts. Most people, however, are so utterly serious that they suspect their own creativity. They expect that its products will be unreal or not valid in the physical world. Yet there is a great correlation between what you think of as creativity, altered states of consciousness, play, and quote-unquote spiritual development. When you create a poem or a song or a painting, you are in a state of play, of enjoyment, of freedom. You intend to make something different, to produce a new version of reality. You create out of love for the sake of the experience. At one time or another, almost everyone has that kind of experience, but children have it often. They compose songs and music and paintings in their heads. They alter the focus of their consciousnesses frequently. They do not stop to ask whether or not the play is real or pertinent. Physically, play develops their body mechanisms. It also flexes the great capabilities of their minds. When you think, quote, life is earnest, end quote, and decide to put away childish things, then often you lose sight of your own creativity and become so deadly serious that you cannot play, even mentally. Spiritual development becomes a goal that must be attained. The goal is to be achieved through hard work, and as long as you believe this, you do not understand what the spirit is. I keep returning to natural analogies, but plants do not work at developing their potential. They are not beautiful because they believe it is their responsibility to please your eye. They are beautiful because they love themselves and beauty. When you are so serious, you almost always distort the nature of your own spirit as far as your understanding of it is concerned. You cannot let your guard down long enough to discover what it is. You keep looking for new rules or regulations or methods of discipline. You keep searching for a new, quote, ascended master, end quote, or guru to keep you in line and point out the way. In their own ways, children are quite aware of their counterparts and of other portions of their individual realities. They relate to their counterparts in dreams. They sometimes see them as quote-unquote invisible companions. You dream of your own counterparts frequently, but you are so afraid of maintaining what you think of as the rational adult self that you ignore such communications. People have written here asking about soulmates. In certain cycles, this is the latest vogue. The idea is an old one. It is based upon the reality of counterparts and presents another version of the theory. But again, it is treated with an almost pompous seriousness. Many of those who use the term do it to hide rather than to release their own joyful abilities. They spend time searching for their soulmates, but the search involves them in a pilgrimage for a kind of impossible communication with another, in which all division is lost, with the two then trying to join in a cementing oneness, suffocating all sense of play or creativity. You are not one part or one half of another soul, searching through the annals of time for your partner, undone until you are completed by your soulmate. When you become too intent to maintain your reality, you lose it, for you deny the creativity upon which it rests. I am not denying the importance of true reason. Certainly I am not telling you to ignore your intellect, but you do often ignore the playfulness of the intellect and force it to become something less than it is. Many of you have daydreams in which you actually see yourself as your counterparts, and portions of their lives sometimes come through to you as you go about your chores. You pay little heed, however. You think that this is just your quote-unquote imagination. The unknown reality is alive in your own psyche. There are hints of it in all of your experience. You would not be alive, in your terms, if first you did not imagine yourself as you are. Play is, in fact, one of the most practical methods of survival, both individually and for the species. Within its framework lie the secrets of creativity, and within the secrets of creativity lie the secrets of being. The life that you consider real represents one narrow spectrum of even your physical experience. I am not speaking here of other realities that could add to that dimension. Play brings you a needed rest from your distorted concepts of selfhood, and many of the world's finest inventions have come when the inventor was not concentrating upon work, but indulging in pastimes or play. You are involved with some of your counterparts more or less directly, while others live in different lands and are sometimes separated also in terms of age differences or culture, qualities with which you would find it difficult to relate. Intuitively, you know who the counterparts are in your daily experience. This does not mean that if you become consciously aware of such affiliations, you must then feel it your responsibility to form a kind of culture of counterparts, or to try and affect other people's lives by reminding them of your relationship. You are each individual. Some of the people you dislike most heartily may be counterparts. Each of you may be exploring different aspects of the same overall challenge. There is nothing esoteric about families. They represent the kind of relationships that you take for granted. The same applies to counterparts, except that you are not ordinarily familiar with the term or concept. Certain members of a family often act out particular roles, however, for the family as a whole. One might be the upstart, another the perfect achiever. Psychologists now often try to deal with the family as a whole by allowing the different members to see how they may be exaggerating certain tendencies at the expense of others. The upstart, for instance, may be displaying all of the bold aspects inhibited by other family members. Through this person, the others may vicariously share the excitement or suspense of those experiences that are otherwise blocked. On the other hand, the achiever may be completely hiding such impulses, while expressing faithfully the desires of other family members for quote-unquote excellence and discipline. Now, the same can apply to counterparts, and those in your experience can show to you in exaggerated form abilities of your own upon which you have not chosen to concentrate. You can learn much from your counterparts, therefore, and they from you. Those counterparts that you meet will be working, playing, and being more or less within your own culture. This does not mean that you are bits and pieces of some hypothetical whole self. Pretend that the psyche is a plant sending out seeds of itself in many directions, each seed growing into a new plant in different conditions. Growing to planthood, those seeds send out further new variations. A handful of seeds from any tree might fall in the same backyard. Others might be blown for miles before they land. You usually live with your physical family, though this does not always apply. Sometimes your ancestors come from various countries, so there is a physical lineage that you understand. There are often homecomings where distant relatives return to the homestead. Now, psychically, the same applies in terms of counterparts. If you belong to any particular groups, often your closest counterparts will also be there. You will be a counterpart from their viewpoint, by the way. Many political, civic, educational, or religious groups are composed of counterparts. These counterparts form psychic families. They are family representations on another level. First of all, such groups have a built-in focus: political, civic, religious, sexual, or whatever. Certain members of the group express the repressed tendencies of others, yet each is supported through a common sense of belonging, so that the group sometimes seems to have its own overall identity in which each member plays a part. Any reader can easily discover this by examining the groups to which he or she belongs. Now, there are races, physically speaking. There are also psychic counterparts of races, families of consciousness, so to speak, all related, yet having different overall characteristics or specialities. Most of the people who come to Rupert's classes are Sumari, for example. There are 8 other such psychic families, 9 in all. Some of Rupert's students are counterparts of each other. Many of the people who come here come home in the ways that members of a physical family attend a reunion. Okay, so Seth says that Rob can change the names if he prefers, and he does, except for a couple, such as Sue Watkins. And this won't make a lot of sense to many of you, but I'm still going to read it, so you can think about it. Seth says that Peter is a counterpart of Joseph's, so Jane's husband on that one. Sue, Watkins, and Zelda are counterparts of Rupert's, or Rupert is a counterpart of Sue and Zelda. Alan and Rupert are counterparts. Carl and Bill and another Bill are counterparts. Norma is a counterpart of Joseph's, and vice versa. The young man from Pennsylvania who came the other week is a counterpart of Rupert's. But all of this applies to any group. The Sumari are naturally playful, inventors, and relatively unfettered. They are impatient, however. They will be found in the arts and in the less conventional sciences. The unknown reality. You have inner affiliations. What are they? I will outline the inner psychic species, and it is up to you to discover to which one you belong. Okay, so there's not enough time to read all of this, but you guys can read this little part. You can pause. But I am going to read this part right here where at break they were, Jane and Rob were talking. And Jane agreeing couldn't elaborate upon very much beyond saying that Jane felt that each family could have subdivisions and or combine with others, so that mathematically at least there existed the possibility of, quote, a lot, end quote, of them. So Seth resumes and states, now I'm using this group of Rupert's class as an example, but the same applies again to any group. The Sumari are rambunctious, in certain terms anti-authority, full of energy. They are usually individualists against systems of any kind. They are not, quote, born reformers, end quote, however. They do not insist that everyone believe in their ideas, but they are stubborn in that they insist upon the right to believe in their own ideas and will avoid all coercion. Okay, pausing real quick. Do not switch the video, you guys. The species of consciousness, I promise, are coming up. So just give me a second here. So in class, Emma and Jack are counterparts. You and Jack are counterparts, but you and Emma are not. Earl and Sam are counterparts. To my readers, these names mean nothing. Yet in each case, the relationships noted indicate inner realizations and connections. The same realities appear in each of your lives. Will and Ben are counterparts. Will is a very intelligent young man, proud of it, though he goes to great effort to show he is one of the boys. On the other hand, Ben trusts his intuitions fully and relies upon them. Yet to some extent, he fears his own great energy. In many respects, he is a child and utterly spontaneous. Will dreams of being spontaneous. Yet even in this open class group, Ben's spontaneity becomes embarrassing to adults, free enough to play with the idea of spontaneity, while not trusting it completely. Ben is afraid of the intellect. He is frightened that it will, quote, pull him down, end quote. Now, any group will show the same kind of interrelationships. You can see them for yourselves. There is great diversity within the family of consciousness called Sumari, as there is within any physical race, and there is also great variety within other psychic families. You choose to be born in a particular physical family, however, with your brothers and sisters, or as an only child. So, generally speaking, your counterparts are born in the same psychic family of your contemporaries. These families can be called, and then he goes into the names. 1. Gramada. 2. Sumafi. 3. Tumold. 4. Volt. 5. Milumet. 6. Zuli. 7. Borladim, closest to Sumari. And 8. Ilda. And number 9. Sumari. Now, these categories do not come first. Your individuality comes first. You have certain characteristics of your own. These place you in a certain position. As you are not a rock or mineral but a person, so your individuality places you in a particular family or species of consciousness. This represents your overall viewpoint of reality. You like to be an initiator or a follower or a nourisher. You like to create variations on old systems, or you like to create new ones. You like to deal primarily with healing, or with information, or with physical data. You like to deal with sight or sound, with dreams, or with translating inner data into the working psychic material of your society. So you choose a certain focus, as you choose ahead of time your physical family. Alright, so all of this right here you guys can read, pause and read if you'd like, and then I'm going to go down and read this part down here, where it states, Jane and Rob were having a snack, and Jane picked up in quotes, presumably from Seth, that the psychic families were, quote, like your overall mood, the predominant one you carry through your lifetime, end quote. Then she had an interesting comment as we made ready for bed. It pertained to the question I'd asked Seth about counterparts in families. Quote, this is Jane. I think that maybe the family unit is designed more to take care of the reincarnational framework instead of dealing so much with counterparts, end quote. And Rob wondered how all of this fit in with probabilities. Alright, and then right here, if you guys want to read this is very good, excellent questions, but it was never provided, so kind of sucks, but pause and read if you want to read that. Okay, so post-session notes. I'm not reading most of these. The first three here you can pause and read. And I'm going to go to note 4. It says, Rob says, see Seth's very acute discussions of the soul or entity in sessions 526 to 28 for chapter 6 of Seth Speaks. He came through with many excellent points. I've always been intrigued by the remark he made just before 1043 in the 526th session, where Seth stated, quote, you are one manifestation of your own soul, end quote. Then in chapter 9 of Personal Reality, see the 637th session, where Seth said, quote, a group of cells, C-E-L-L, cells, a group of cells forms an organ. A group of selves, S-E-L-V-E-S, a group of selves forms a soul. I am not telling you that you do not have a soul to call your own. You are a part of your soul. It belongs to you and you to it, end quote. So apparently Jane didn't like the idea of a group soul or sharing a soul. But Seth's resolution of the dilemma is in session 638 in the same chapter. And you guys are welcome to read the rest of that. And also number 5 here, you can pause, referring to Appendix 21. Also 6 and 7, quickly pause and read. And number 8, it says, I began these notes several weeks after the 732nd session was held, so that I had some camouflage time to sort out events and to let others happen. Originally, however, I felt a surge of uneasiness as soon as Seth mentioned that my friend, artist Peter Smith, is a counterpart of mine. When I checked the 724th session, I affirmed the reason for that reaction. Seth had stated therein that Peter and I were not counterparts, although, quote, closely enough allied so that in certain terms you, quote unquote, share some of the same psychic memories, end quote. Why the contradiction, I wondered, even if Seth had qualified it. Neither Jane nor I believed I'd mistakenly recorded Seth in either of these sessions. We plan to ask him for clarification. And you guys can read the rest of this. Sue Watkins, who had introduced Peter, blah, 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 blah. Let's go on to the next page, so pause and read that if you want. where you're going to get Sue's account of what happened, but then I'm just going to read Seth. Okay, I'm going to go through these really fast, so pause for this upper paragraph, upper two, end of first, pause. In beginning, Sue Watkins' very interesting ideas that she had wrote down. She's a really great psychic, so you can read what she has to say. Pause, and then whoops, and then there's the rest, and there's the rest of that where it ends right here. And it says, and in his own way, Seth confirmed one of Sue's projections. So, from a personal session, Seth stated, alright, so getting right to the nitty-gritty of Seth's quote here. He says to Rob, you and Peter are and are not counterparts. You do share psychic memories and hold in common the memories of other selves who did live in the time of your 4th Roman soldier incident. Those memories exist as patterns. In this life, each of you come together in part, come together and part again, forming a counterpart relationship when it suits your purposes, as streams of consciousness mix and merge and then separate. These counterparts are psychic relationships, formations that in the deepest terms flow into historic time and out of it. Some, in your terms, last a lifetime. Others represent psychic encounters that happen between two individuals at several points, say, but are not continuous. They may be no less intense, however. End quote. Alright, note number 10. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's about the, Jane initiated the Sumari development on her own in ESP class. And in the 598th session, the discussion began. During one delivery, he remarked somewhat humorously that the Sumari, quote, want someone else to take care of what they have created, end quote. That, quote, they don't hang around to cut the grass, end quote. And you can find more of that short passage in Jane's Adventures in Consciousness, Chapter 7. And then also referencing Seth Speaks, Chapters 11 to 13, where Seth delivered much material about reincarnation, including, quote, the time of choosing, end quote, between lives, recreating and changing events in past lives, and past and present reincarnational family relationships, probabilities, dreams, the fetus, and so forth. So again, let me just say that each session is going to gradually kind of build and give more information on these families of consciousness. It'd be nice if it was all together, but it's not, so that's the way we get it. But just keep following along, you guys. Be patient, and it will all come together. Take note of the special videos or sessions that you want to remember and go back to. Also, you're going to start to think about like which family of consciousness would you belong to. So that stuff's going to come up and it's going to be awesome. Real quick, you guys can pause and read what the next session is going to be about that I wrote. Session 733, Rob states, it's more on counterparts, negative life conditions, and Seth's world. So, thank you for watching. Subscribe, comment, share.